Dad, do people only see what I cannot do? The question cut through the noise of the luxury hotel lobby more sharply than any boardroom challenge Harrison Blake had ever faced. For a moment, the billionaire CEO simply stood there, unable to answer. Around them, polished marble floors reflected the glow of crystal chandeliers hanging 3 stories overhead. Guests in designer suits and elegant gowns drifted toward the grand ballroom, where the annual Vision Forward Charity Gala was about to begin. Soft piano music floated through the air. Laughter echoed from distant corners. Everything looked perfect. Everything except the expression on 9-year-old Lily Blake's face. Harrison glanced down at his daughter and felt a familiar ache settle in his chest. Lily stood beside him in a pale blue dress, one hand resting lightly against his arm. Her eyes, beautiful and calm, stared toward a world she could no longer see. She had been blind for most of her life. Harrison had spent years searching for solutions. Specialists in Boston, researchers in California, experimental programs in Texas. If money could open a door, he had tried it. If influence could move a mountain, he had pushed it. Yet none of it could protect Lily from the one thing that hurt most. The way people treated her. Some spoke too loudly. Some spoke too softly. Some avoided her entirely because they felt uncomfortable. Others wrapped every sentence in pity. Lily noticed all of it. Children always did. "Sweetheart," Harrison said carefully, "people see a lot of things when they look at you." Lily tilted her head slightly. "But do they see me?" The question stopped him cold. Before he could respond, a group of guests approached from across the lobby. Harrison instantly recognized them as business partners and major donors. Smiles appeared. Hands were extended. Conversations began. Lily stood quietly beside him while adults exchanged compliments and financial updates. Nobody meant to ignore her, yet somehow they did. One woman bent down and patted Lily gently on the shoulder. "You are such a brave little girl," she said. Lily forced a polite smile. Harrison watched the expression appear and disappear. He knew that smile. It was the smile Lily used when she was tired of being treated like an inspiration instead of a child. A few feet away, Naomi Carter balanced a silver serving tray against one hand while observing the growing crowd. At 26, she had worked enough high-profile events to recognize the invisible stories unfolding beneath expensive clothing and polished appearances. Most guests saw Harrison Blake, one of the most successful executives in the country. Naomi saw a father struggling to answer a question he desperately wished he could fix. And she saw a little girl standing in the center of a crowded room while feeling completely alone. The gala coordinator called for staff to take their positions. Naomi nodded and began moving toward the ballroom entrance. As she passed near Harrison and Lily, she heard the little girl speak again. "Dad, I can tell when people feel sorry for me." Harrison's shoulders stiffened. "Lily, I can hear it in their voices." Her words were quiet, honest, impossible to argue with. Naomi slowed for just a second before continuing forward. Something about Lily's voice lingered with her. Not sadness, not anger, something deeper. It sounded like a child searching for proof that she was more than the thing everyone noticed first. And before the night was over, that question would change all 3 of their lives. Lily could always tell when a room changed. She did not need eyes for that. The moment Harrison guided her through the ballroom doors, she felt it. Conversations softened. Footsteps slowed. Voices shifted ever so slightly. Some people became overly cheerful. Others became cautious. A few fell silent altogether. The grand ballroom sparkled beneath towering crystal chandeliers, but Lily experienced it differently. She listened to the gentle hum of hundreds of conversations blending together like distant waves. She heard silverware lightly touching fine china. She heard musicians tuning instruments near the stage. She heard waiters moving carefully across polished floors. Every sound painted a picture inside her mind. Yet despite how vividly she understood the world around her, most people assumed she understood less. Harrison stayed close beside her as guests continued approaching. He introduced her to donors, executives, and community leaders. Everyone was polite. Everyone was kind. But kindness sometimes carried a weight Lily wished people understood. "You are so inspiring," one man said. "Such a courageous young lady," said another. Lily thanked them politely each time. She had learned how. But every compliment felt strangely similar. Nobody asked what book she liked. Nobody asked what made her laugh. Nobody asked what she dreamed about becoming someday. They only talked about what she had overcome. Across the room, Naomi Carter moved between tables carrying trays of sparkling water and appetizers. The event had barely begun, yet she had already noticed a pattern. Every conversation with Lily seemed to orbit around the same subject. Blindness. Not Lily herself. Blindness. The distinction mattered more than most people realized. Near the center of the ballroom stood a large display highlighting the charity's achievements. Guests gathered around it, discussing fundraising goals and upcoming programs. Harrison was briefly pulled into a conversation with several board members. "I will be right here, sweetheart," he said. Lily smiled. "I know." Harrison hesitated before stepping a few feet away. He trusted the environment. Security was everywhere. Yet part of him always worried. Not because Lily was incapable, because he knew how often the world underestimated her. Lily stood quietly, listening. She recognized her father's footsteps fading into the crowd. She heard a waiter passing on her left. She heard a woman laughing near the stage. Then she heard something else. Two younger guests, probably teenagers, whispering nearby. "Is that Harrison Blake's daughter?" one asked. "I think so." "That is sad." The words were not cruel. They were spoken softly, thoughtlessly, but Lily heard them anyway. Her smile faded just a little. Not because she was offended, because she was tired. Tired of being the sad story in someone else's conversation. Naomi happened to be nearby when she noticed the change. She watched Lily's shoulders lower ever so slightly. Most people would never have seen it. Naomi did. She approached carrying an empty tray beneath one arm. "Can I ask you a question?" she said. Lily turned toward the sound of her voice. There was no pity in it. No hesitation. Just curiosity. "Sure," Lily replied. "What is the most interesting thing you have heard tonight?" Lily blinked in surprise. Then a small smile appeared. It was the first question anyone had asked her all evening that had nothing to do with being blind. And for the first time since entering the ballroom, she felt like someone was finally talking to her instead of talking around her. Lily tilted her head toward Naomi's voice. And for the first time that evening, genuine curiosity replaced the exhaustion she had been carrying since entering the ballroom. "The most interesting thing?" she repeated. Naomi nodded. "That is right. You have been standing here listening to hundreds of conversations. There has to be something more interesting than adults talking about donations." A small laugh escaped Lily before she could stop it. "Actually, there is." Naomi smiled. "Now I am curious." Lily turned slightly toward the center of the ballroom. "There is a man near the stage pretending he understands art." Naomi blinked. "What?" "The one with the deep voice." Lily lowered her own voice dramatically. "He keeps saying words like texture and perspective, but 5 minutes ago he asked someone which painting they were talking about." Naomi laughed so hard she nearly lost her professional composure. Nearby guests glanced over briefly before returning to their conversations. "That is a very specific observation," Naomi said. Lily shrugged. "People tell you a lot when they think you are not paying attention." The answer caught Naomi by surprise. There was wisdom in it, the kind that usually comes from spending years watching human nature. Or in Lily's case, listening to it. Across the ballroom, Harrison concluded his conversation with several donors. As he turned, he noticed something unusual. Lily was smiling. Not politely, not out of obligation. She was actually enjoying herself. He stopped for a moment, watching from a distance. Naomi was standing beside her, tray tucked beneath one arm, speaking to her as if she were any other child. No special treatment, no cautious sympathy, just conversation. Harrison could not remember the last time he had seen someone do that. Most adults either overcompensated or became uncomfortable. Naomi seemed to do neither. "So," Naomi said, lowering her voice conspiratorially, "what else have you figured out tonight?" Lily's smile widened. "The woman near the piano is wearing shoes she regrets buying." Naomi stared. "How could you possibly know that?" "She keeps shifting her weight every few seconds and making tiny sounds when she walks." Naomi shook her head in amazement. "You noticed all that?" It is hard not to. For a second, silence settled between them. Not an awkward silence. A thoughtful one. Naomi found herself realizing something important. Lily was not simply listening to the world. She was reading it. Every voice, every footstep, every movement. Information flowed toward her in ways most people never considered. Yet everyone seemed focused on what she lacked instead of what she possessed. Harrison slowly approached, still observing. As he came closer, He noticed how animated Lily sounded, how relaxed. It was as though a weight had briefly lifted from her shoulders. "Dad," Lily called before he even spoke. "You are carrying 2 phones tonight." Harrison froze. "How did you know that?" Lily smiled. "The sound they make when they bump against each other in your pocket." Naomi's eyes widened. Harrison laughed softly. "You got me." Lily grinned. "You always carry 2 phones when you are worried." The smile faded slightly as soon as she said it. Harrison felt the truth behind the observation. He had been worried. Constantly. For years. Sometimes so focused on protecting Lily that he forgot to notice who she was becoming. As music drifted through the ballroom and crystal chandeliers cast warm light across the crowd, Naomi looked at Lily with new understanding. Everyone else saw a blind little girl. Naomi was beginning to see something entirely different. She was seeing a child with an extraordinary gift hiding in plain sight. Naomi could not stop thinking about Lily's observations. Long after she resumed serving guests, her mind kept returning to the little girl's effortless ability to gather details from the world around her. Most people spent their lives learning how to listen. Lily seemed to have mastered it years ago. The ballroom grew busier as more donors arrived. Conversations overlapped beneath the chandeliers. Glasses clinked. Laughter drifted from table to table. Yet through all of it, Lily remained remarkably calm. She was standing near her father now, answering polite questions from guests. Naomi noticed something interesting. Whenever someone spoke to Lily, the little girl immediately adjusted her posture toward the sound. She never missed a voice. She never hesitated. It was as though she carried an invisible map of the room inside her mind. Harrison noticed Naomi watching and walked over during a brief pause in the evening. "She seems to like you," he said. Naomi smiled. "She is easy to like." Harrison looked toward his daughter. "Most people do not know how to talk to her." "I noticed." The CEO exhaled quietly. "I have spent years trying to make things easier for her." Naomi studied his expression. Behind the confidence and success was a father carrying more worry than he wanted anyone to see. "Can I ask you something?" she said. Harrison nodded. "Do people ever let her surprise them?" The question caught him off guard. Before he could answer, a voice echoed across the ballroom. A charity organizer had stepped onto the stage to welcome the guests. Applause followed. As the crowd settled, Naomi returned to work. A few minutes later, she passed near a group of donors standing beside one of the display tables. They were discussing the foundation's mission when one man lowered his voice. "It is a shame about Blake's daughter," he said. "With all that money, you would think there would be a solution by now." Another guest nodded sympathetically. "At least she seems happy." Neither man sounded cruel. They believed they were expressing concern. Yet Naomi immediately felt uncomfortable. Once again, Lily had become a problem to be discussed rather than a person to be known. Before Naomi could move away, she noticed Lily approaching from the opposite side of the room. The little girl had heard them. Naomi could tell by the subtle change in her expression. Her smile disappeared. Her shoulders tightened. She slowed her pace but continued walking as though nothing had happened. The men never realized she was nearby. Naomi acted instantly. She stepped forward and greeted Lily with cheerful energy. "There you are," she said. "I need your help." Lily blinked. "You do?" "Absolutely. I have a mystery that needs solving." The sudden shift redirected the little girl's attention before the conversation behind her could settle deeper into her heart. "What kind of mystery?" Lily asked. Naomi lowered her voice dramatically. "Someone in this ballroom keeps carrying cinnamon mints, and I cannot figure out who." Lily paused. Then a smile slowly returned. She listened for a moment. Just a moment. "The woman near the piano," she said confidently. "Third table from the stage." Naomi laughed. "How do you know that?" "Because every time she speaks, I can smell cinnamon when she walks past." Naomi shook her head in amazement. Across the room, Harrison had witnessed the entire exchange. He saw the donors. He saw Lily hear them. And he saw Naomi step in without making anyone feel embarrassed, protecting Lily's dignity while reminding her of something important. She was not defined by what she lacked. She was extraordinary because of what she possessed. Harrison could not stop thinking about what he had just witnessed. For years, he had surrounded Lily with experts, therapists, consultants, teachers. Every person had entered her life with the same goal, helping her adapt to the world. Yet Naomi seemed to be doing something entirely different. She was helping the world adapt to Lily. The realization followed him as the evening continued. The charity gala moved into its main program. Guests found their seats. Servers carried plates between tables. The stage lights brightened as speakers prepared to address the crowd. Lily sat beside her father near the front of the ballroom. Unlike earlier in the evening, she seemed more relaxed. Her shoulders were no longer tense. Every so often, Harrison noticed a small smile appear. Whenever Naomi passed nearby, it was a simple detail, but it mattered. Lily rarely felt comfortable around strangers. During a pause between presentations, Naomi approached with glasses of sparkling water. "I have another mystery," she said quietly. Lily immediately smiled. "Already? This one is difficult." "Good." Naomi glanced around dramatically. "There is someone in this room who is nervous, even though everyone believes he is the most confident person here." Lily tilted her head. "That does not sound difficult." Harrison laughed softly. "You sound very sure of yourself." "I am." Lily listened for several seconds. Around them, guests spoke in low voices. Cutlery touched plates. Chairs shifted against the floor. Then she pointed toward her father. "It is him." Naomi grinned. "That was fast." Harrison raised an eyebrow. "What gave me away?" Lily smiled. "You keep tapping your thumb against your glass." Harrison froze. He had not even realized he was doing it. "You only do that when something is bothering you." Naomi exchanged a glance with him. Once again, Lily had noticed something most people would miss. Not because she was trying to impress anyone, because paying attention was second nature to her. A few nearby guests overheard the exchange and laughed warmly. For the first time all evening, the attention did not feel uncomfortable. It felt genuine. Lily was not being admired because of her blindness. She was being admired because she was interesting. The distinction changed everything. As the evening progressed, a well-known philanthropist stepped onto the stage to deliver a speech. The audience listened politely. When the presentation ended, the speaker invited guests to briefly share stories about perseverance and community impact. Several hands rose. One person spoke about education. Another discussed healthcare. Applause followed each story. Then Lily quietly leaned toward Naomi, who happened to be standing nearby. "Can I tell you something?" she whispered. "Of course. I think I know almost everyone in this room." Naomi smiled. "Really?" Lily nodded. "Not their names. Their voices." Naomi studied her for a moment. An idea began forming. "Hey, surprising one. How many people do you think you could identify?" Lily considered the question seriously. "Most of them." Naomi blinked. "Most? Probably." There was no arrogance in her answer. Only honesty. Harrison overheard the exchange and looked toward his daughter. For a second, uncertainty crossed his face. Then curiosity replaced it. Naomi could see both emotions. She also saw something else. Hope. The same hope that appears when someone begins realizing a strength they never noticed before. And as the final presentations of the evening continued beneath the glow of crystal chandeliers, a possibility started taking shape. Before the night ended, Lily might finally discover that the thing she thought made her different had also given her an extraordinary gift. The idea stayed with Naomi long after their conversation ended. She continued moving between tables, serving guests and clearing glasses, but every time she glanced toward Lily, she found herself thinking about the same thing. Most people in the ballroom were focused on what the little girl could not see. Nobody seemed interested in what she could hear. The difference mattered. On stage, the evening's host thanked several major donors before announcing a brief interactive segment designed to encourage audience participation. Guests smiled politely. Some checked their phones. Others leaned back in their chairs, waiting for the program to continue. Naomi noticed Lily listening carefully to every voice that reached the microphone. Not casually, intently, like someone cataloging information. Harrison noticed it too. "What are you doing?" he asked quietly. Lily smiled. "Learning." "Learning what? Who is speaking?" Harrison chuckled. "You already know?" "Most of them." The answer sounded so matter-of-fact that he almost missed its significance. Nearby, Naomi paused. The host was now inviting volunteers to participate in a lighthearted audience activity. Nothing complicated, just a few simple questions and introductions. Suddenly, an opportunity appeared. Naomi walked carefully toward Harrison. "Can I ask you something?" she said softly. He nodded. "What if Lily showed people what she can do?" Harrison looked uncertain. "In front of everyone?" "Only if she wants to." Before he could answer, Lily turned toward them. "Show them what?" Naomi smiled. "Your talent." Lily immediately shook her head. It is not a talent. Really? Naomi folded her arms playfully. Then how did you know about the cinnamon mints? Lily laughed. That was easy. And your father's second phone? Also easy. Naomi lowered her voice. I do not think those things are easy. Harrison watched the exchange carefully. Part of him wanted to protect Lily from attention. Another part wondered if he had been protecting her from opportunities as well. For years he had worried about disappointment, about embarrassment, about failure. Somewhere along the way, fear had quietly become a fence around his daughter's world. Lily sat quietly for several seconds. The sounds of the ballroom swirled around her. Applause, conversations, music, hundreds of tiny details most people ignored. What would I have to do? She finally asked. Naomi smiled. Nothing difficult. Just be yourself. The words settled into the air between them. Be yourself. Not be brave. Not be inspirational. Not overcome anything. Just be yourself. Harrison felt something shift inside him. He realized he could not remember the last time someone had encouraged Lily to celebrate her strengths instead of explaining her challenges. On stage, the host invited audience members to participate in a brief demonstration. Guests laughed and volunteered. The atmosphere remained warm and relaxed. Naomi glanced toward Lily. You know, she said softly, I think there are a lot of people in this room who would be amazed by what you notice every day. Lily lowered her head slightly. What if I get it wrong? Harrison opened his mouth to answer, but Naomi spoke first. Then you get one thing wrong. Her tone remained calm and matter-of-fact. Everybody else in this room gets things wrong all the time. Lily thought about that. Then a small smile appeared. For the first time all evening, she did not look worried about what people might think. She looked curious about what might happen. And from across the ballroom, beneath the glow of crystal, chandeliers and surrounded by some of the most influential people in the city, Harrison realized he was watching something remarkable. His daughter was beginning to believe there might be more to her story than the limitations everyone else saw. The host smiled at the audience and adjusted the microphone. Before we continue, he said, we thought it might be fun to try something different. A few guests laughed politely. Others looked curious. The atmosphere remained light and relaxed. Naomi stood near the side of the ballroom, her heart beating a little faster than usual. She glanced toward Lily, who was sitting beside Harrison. The little girl looked nervous, but not frightened. There was a difference. Nervousness comes from possibility. Fear comes from defeat. Tonight, for the first time, Lily seemed to believe something good might happen. The host invited several volunteers to stand throughout the ballroom. Guests happily participated. Some raised their hands. Others called out jokes from their tables. Laughter spread across the room. Harrison leaned toward his daughter. You do not have to do anything you do not want to do. Lily nodded. I know. Then she surprised him. I want to try. Harrison froze. For years he had been the one encouraging, the one persuading, the one worrying. Tonight Lily was moving forward on her own. Naomi smiled from across the room. The host explained the activity. Volunteers would introduce themselves one at a time from different parts of the ballroom. The challenge was simple. Could anyone identify where each person was standing based only on their voice? Several guests volunteered guesses. Most answers were close but inaccurate. The audience enjoyed the game. Then Naomi quietly approached the host and whispered something. His eyebrows lifted immediately. Really? He asked. Naomi nodded. Moments later, the host returned to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, he said with a grin, we may have someone here tonight who is much better at this than the rest of us. Curious murmurs spread across the ballroom. Harrison felt his pulse quicken. Lily sat perfectly still. Would you like to give it a try? The host asked gently. For a second, the room seemed to hold its breath. Then Lily stood. Naomi saw the moment Harrison instinctively moved as if to help, but stopped himself. Lily did not need rescuing. She simply needed space. The audience watched respectfully as she stepped forward. One volunteer spoke from near the ballroom entrance. Lily smiled immediately. Left side of the room, near the doors, about 30 feet away. The audience turned. She was exactly right. Another volunteer spoke. Near the stage, Lily answered. Second row. Again, she was correct. A third voice called out. Then a fourth. Then a fifth. Each answer arrived almost instantly. Each one was accurate. The room grew quieter after every response. Not because people felt sorry for her, because they were amazed. Harrison stared in disbelief. He had known Lily was observant. He had never realized how extraordinary she truly was. The little girl who spent years believing people only saw her limitations was now revealing a gift nobody else possessed. Even Lily seemed surprised by the reaction. Soft applause began near the front tables. Then more joined in. Soon the ballroom filled with warm appreciation. Not for her courage, not for her blindness, for her talent. Naomi felt tears gathering in her eyes. Across the room, Lily's smile grew wider than it had all evening. For the first time, she was not standing in the shadow of what she could not do. She was standing in the light of what she could. Lily stood beneath the ballroom lights as the applause continued around her. At first, she seemed unsure what to do with it. She had spent so many years being noticed for the wrong reasons that genuine admiration felt unfamiliar. The sound washed over her from every direction. Warm, encouraging, real. She smiled and instinctively turned toward the place where she knew her father was sitting. Harrison could barely breathe. The room around him faded into the background. The executives, the donors, the speeches, none of it mattered anymore. His eyes remained fixed on his daughter. For years he had measured progress by doctor visits, evaluations, reports, and treatments. Tonight he was seeing something far more important. Confidence. Real confidence. The kind that cannot be purchased, scheduled, or prescribed. The host returned to the microphone with a smile. "I think we have all been thoroughly impressed," he said. Laughter and applause followed. Lily's cheeks turned slightly red. "I was just listening," she said quietly. The audience laughed again, but this time it was laughter filled with appreciation. Naomi stood near the side of the ballroom, holding an empty tray against her hip. She watched Lily carefully. The little girl was standing taller now. Her shoulders were relaxed. Her voice carried more certainty. It was as though she had just discovered a door inside herself that had been there all along. The host asked one final question. "How do you do it?" Lily thought for a moment. The ballroom grew quiet. "I do not know," she admitted. "I just pay attention." The simplicity of the answer seemed to affect everyone in the room. Because deep down, they understood she was talking about more than sound. Lily paid attention to people, to emotions, to details, to things most adults rushed past every day. Harrison felt a lump rise in his throat. Suddenly, a memory returned. Years earlier, shortly after Lily lost her sight, he had sat beside her hospital bed while she asked him a question he never forgot. "Dad, will I ever be good at anything again?" At the time, he had answered immediately. "Of course you will." But if he was honest, part of him had been terrified. Not because he doubted Lily, because he doubted the world. He worried people would never look beyond her challenges. Tonight, that fear finally cracked. Not because the world had changed, because Lily had shown the world who she really was. Harrison lowered his head for a moment and wiped away a tear before anyone could notice. Unfortunately for him, Naomi noticed anyway. Their eyes met briefly across the ballroom. She offered a small smile. No words were necessary. They both understood what had happened. The little girl who entered the gala wondering whether people only saw what she could not do was now standing before hundreds of guests who were celebrating what she could do better than anyone else in the room. The applause eventually faded. Guests returned to their conversations. The program continued. Yet something fundamental had changed. As Lily made her way back to her table, several people stopped her. Not to offer sympathy, not to tell her she was brave. They wanted to know how she learned to recognize voices. They wanted to hear more. They were curious about her. For perhaps the first time in a very long time, people were seeing Lily before they were seeing her blindness. And Harrison realized that was the miracle he had been searching for all along. The gala slowly began to wind down, but Lily wished the evening could last a little longer. For the first time in years, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Not happiness. She had experienced happiness before. This felt different. It felt like belonging. Guests who had spent the evening discussing investments, charities, and business ventures now stopped to speak with her. They asked questions about how she recognized voices. They asked how she remembered details. Most importantly, they asked about her favorite books, her favorite music, her dreams. Lily answered each question with growing confidence. Every conversation felt like proof that people were finally seeing the person behind the assumptions. Across the ballroom, Harrison stood quietly watching. He had spent so much of his life solving problems that he never realized some things could not be solved. They could only be understood. For years he had focused on helping Lily overcome what she had lost. Tonight he finally saw what she had gained. not despite her challenges. Through them, Naomi was gathering empty glasses near one of the tables when Harrison approached. For a moment, neither spoke. The sounds of the ballroom drifted softly around them. Staff members cleared decorations. Guests exchanged final goodbyes. Beyond the tall windows, Manhattan glittered beneath the night sky. "I owe you more than a thank you," Harrison said quietly. Naomi smiled. "You do not owe me anything." "I do." He glanced toward Lily, who was laughing with a group of guests. "I spent years trying to protect her from disappointment." Naomi followed his gaze. "That is what parents do." Harrison nodded slowly. "But somewhere along the way, I started protecting her from opportunities too." The words hung in the air between them. Honest, difficult, necessary. Naomi looked back at him. "You love her, more than anything. Then give yourself some grace." Harrison laughed softly. "You make that sound easy." "It is not." Naomi smiled. "But tonight she showed you something important." Harrison looked toward his daughter again. "She did." A few minutes later, Lily made her way across the ballroom and found her father near the entrance. Her smile returned the moment she recognized his footsteps. "Ready to go home?" he asked. "Almost." Harrison laughed. "Almost. I want to say goodbye first." She turned toward Naomi. "Can I ask you one more question?" Naomi nodded immediately. "Of course." Lily hesitated for a second. Then she asked the question that had been quietly growing inside her all evening. "Do you think being blind makes me broken?" The ballroom seemed to disappear. Harrison felt his heart stop. Naomi did not answer immediately. She wanted Lily to hear every word. "No," she said gently. "Not even a little." Lily listened carefully. Naomi continued. "Everybody in this room has something they cannot do. Everybody has something they struggle with. That is part of being human. But being different is not the same thing as being broken." Silence followed. Then Lily smiled. A real smile. The kind that reaches all the way to the heart. She stepped forward and hugged Naomi. It lasted only a few seconds, but neither woman forgot it. Minutes later, Harrison and Lily stepped out into the cool New York night. As they walked toward their waiting car, Lily slipped her hand into her father's. "Dad." "Yes, sweetheart." She smiled toward the city lights she could not see but could somehow still feel. "I think people saw me tonight." Harrison looked down at his daughter and felt tears fill his eyes once more. "They did," he whispered. "And now you see yourself too."